Hello and welcome to the Transition Podcast. I am Josh, the drummer, and I'm in Taipei right now.
I'm Jesse. I am in the UK in Bristol. And Josh, you're sounding a little bit quieter than normal. Why is that?
It's because it's coming up to 3 a.m. right now. So I'm living almost on UK time.
You stayed up so late for us. How come?
Thanks to my baby daughter, who is just turned 2 months old.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, she's wonderful, but she's struggling to understand the difference between night and day at the moment. As I say, despite being in Taipei, rather closer to UK time in terms of day and night. But
yeah, absolutely.
But that's all part and parcel.
Yeah. So this week on the podcast, we'll share a couple of songs that we feel are really appropriate for this time. And then I hear that you've been doing some interesting things. While I've been locked down and I've been mostly at home, you're still able to go about life pretty much as normal. So do you want to share what you've been up to?
Yeah, well, I guess we can talk a little bit about the difference in our situations because, right now everybody says it's unprecedented. It is a once in a lifetime, I guess, global catastrophe in this sense. But for me, here in Taiwan, I have to say that the government have managed it so well. We're on high alert here, but we haven't actually had a lockdown at all. And the number of cases here in Taiwan is only just from the beginning to now, like the 1st of May, I think it's just over 300. So they've blocked things really well. They've tested immediately on anyone who's been, showing symptoms and done the whole kind of trace and isolate quarantining, really protected the health service. They've had all the right PPE from the word go, from the beginning. And
for Taiwan to be prepared is pretty amazing, I have to say.
Yeah, it's incredible. I know that, here, like the first, I think a big difference is that they've been through the SARS epidemic back in 2003, which hit quite hard, which started in Guangzhou and then spread to Hong Kong and then came to Taiwan. And I think the government put in place a whole process which just kicked in, as soon as there's danger of an epidemic, a virus epidemic. It's like we've got a whole system of how we're therefore going to deal with it. And
so they had plans and they put those into place.
Absolutely. So one of the key things at the beginning was anyone who was suspected of being a case, particularly coming from right back at the beginning, but coming from Wuhan or from a virus hotspot, they weren't taken into hospitals. They were tested outside hospitals. They weren't allowed in. They were immediately then taken to quarantine centres. So the virus didn't get in to spread around the hospitals. So medical staff were protected.
We hear a lot in the American media about Wuhan.
That's right. Yeah, the correct.
Wuhan clan, is it? Wu-Tan clan? Which is the right pronunciation for us?
The city Wuhan. Wuhan is the correct pronunciation rather than Wuhan.
Yeah.
Such is the deception of pinyin, I guess.
We've actually been there, haven't we?
We started our tour there back in 2015. So it was like 5 years ago now when we played 21 cities around China. We actually had a couple of extra days in Wuhan because of arriving there, and we had a rehearsal before the tour started. We had to get all the work permit documents and all that done and stuff. So we actually saw a little bit of Wuhan.
And we were in a great venue, weren't we? In the Grand Theatre.
It was, and it was. I remember the guys at the time, the Chinese manager at the time, pointing at the river that the theatre was built next to and saying, this is a really important river in Chinese history. When there were conflicts between different dynasties way back, often that river was a point where if you could cross it, if you could win the battle across the river, then you took that whole part of China. Yeah, fascinating. There's so much history that you could go into. Yeah, bringing things back to the present, it's a shame that the city of Wuhan, I guess, gets tainted as being the source of this COVID-19. It's a big. It's going to be a long investigation. And certainly, you feel sorry for the people of Wuhan because.
Yeah, that's who we got to focus on, isn't it? We've got so many friends there, so no matter what other things are going on behind the scenes, politically or whatever, we've got a lot of friends who are there, who are based there, and our thoughts are with them.
Well, absolutely. I mean, particularly one good friend who's there, and you know, a month or two ago, I was messaging her to check she was okay, and she's like, "Yep, we're all fine, we're all healthy, but we're stuck inside, with my 1-year-old baby." So I can't imagine what that must be like to be, you know, locked down in a tiny little flat for months with a toddler. Goodness, which
he wants to get out and play and run around and all that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, terrible. But again, it makes me so grateful for the incredible response of the government here in Taiwan, who really have handled things so well that you know, life hasn't been affected on that scale. Back at Chinese New Year, when, you know, mid to late January, when the whole thing was kicking off, they immediately announced an extra 3 weeks of school holiday. So schools didn't go back after the Chinese New Year holiday. They had an extra 3 weeks off.
Why was that?
Because they were worried about, you know, if there were a few infections that came in and children went to school and spread them, or you know, if teachers went to school and spread them, you know, it was like, this is a crucial time, so we're going to stop schools, you know, stop these meeting points, these gathering places for at least 3 weeks, and then see where we are. And it worked, you know, along with everything else they were doing. And so kids all went back to school after 3 weeks, albeit, you know, still on high alert. And there were a couple of schools that shut down because there were a couple of cases. So those particular schools then immediately shut down again. But they were so quick to isolate people, test, isolate, and then contact trace and make sure that people they've been in contact with either don't get it, or if they do, they're again isolated very quickly. And so the spread was stopped there. So I guess, you know, we could talk about the whole virus and the situation for forever, but one of the things that then has really impacted me is the fact that I was able to go and do a week's recording for our good friend Wing.
Great. Yeah.
In the south of Taiwan for his new album. And I mean, at the best of times, that's a great project.
Yeah.
You know, it's an honor to be involved with. It's going to be a lot of fun. Get to do recording in a beautiful environment in a great place. And to be able to do it at the time when the rest of the world was locked down was, I mean, it something to be incredibly grateful and not take for granted, I think. So, yeah, he had this idea, and Jess, you might remember Wing telling us about this plan years and years ago.
Yeah,
Wing was inspired by Jack Johnson's studio in Hawaii that ran on solar power. You know, it's this kind of lifestyle of they'd be surfing and then they'd come back and they'd make music in this solar-powered studio, and it's all powered by nature. Wings had this plan and this idea for years of going back to his hometown. It's a town called Mainong in the south of Taiwan, in Kaohsiung. And and he wanted to go there and find also a house or a place that was running on solar power and record an album there. So take all the studio equipment to this place and have a whole creative time recording an album in his hometown. For years he couldn't actually find a place to go, and he didn't really know how to make this plan or this dream, as it were, into a reality until last year when he went back to his hometown for a performance, and he just mentioned this plan to another musician who immediately drove him straight to this. It's kind of like a B&B, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah.
To meet the boss and to take a look at the environment and to see if it would be appropriate.
Great, yeah.
So that was where we went, and it's all wood. The whole place is built from wood. It's 2 stories. It's quite high, but it's also open. The lounge area goes from the floor right up to the ceiling. It's a high ceiling area, and then there's the bedrooms on the second floor are kind of.
You might put a picture or 2 in. Is that right?
I will. Yeah. I'll show some pictures, but why do I talk about that? Was because for me it was almost like paradise. It was okay. So I get to go a day before the rest of the musicians, and basically it's me and the engineer and a drum kit, and we get to test out this incredible wooden, bit like a bungalow, but it's 2 stories. And there's all different rooms. There's all different like nooks and crannies and great places that you can just hear incredible sounds.
Yeah.
The snare sounds great here. The bass drum sounds great there. We record a song in this open bit, and then we'll change it all around and move into a different corner for another song. And I don't know. I love that creativity that you can get where you're not actually in a studio, and where you're in a place that nobody's ever recorded before, and probably no one else is going to record again. So you know that the sounds you're getting are unique, and you also know that basically the space is yours, the time is yours.
That's an important thing, isn't it? Getting a unique sound.
Absolutely, and it's quite rare. Certainly in pop music here in Taiwan, it's really rare that someone would take the time and effort to do something like that. So being involved with this project with Wing for me was amazing, because it wasn't just record a few rhythms for these songs that I've already written. It was come and take part in the creative process of recording these new songs in a unique way, in a unique place. And that was a real privilege. But then add on top of this, because the idea was so interesting, then Wing had actually persuaded a TV station called Hakka TV to come and document the whole thing. So they'd actually written a whole documentary script around the recording of this album. There was a whole camera team there of about, 10 people.
That's a big team.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was much bigger than I was expecting. But it turned out then, over the course of the 5 days that we were there, as well as recording the songs, we also had these other missions to do things like going back to Wing's old school, where he went to school, going to a rice field, and there was a guy who was explaining about growing rice there. We had to help pick up some of the snails off the rice.
Snails?
And then...
What?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, really funny. And because the snails eat the rice kind of plant, so you have to pick them off, because they weren't using any pesticides. And then at the end, we did like a performance in the garden of this B&B for all the neighbours.
Oh, nice.
So there were all these old people that came over. There was one guy in the audience who was 92.
Wow.
A lot of them live outside. They work the land. They're pretty healthy, and they do a lot of exercise. So it was funny. We were all wilting in the heat, and there were these old guys there. They were just watching and clapping along, and they were fine with it. We were the weak ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I say, so we were recording all of these extra parts as part of the documentary, so that when the album comes out, the documentary will be released at the same time. And they've got then all these different shots of these different places and things, which will link to the backstory then of every song. So instead of just we're recording this song and then recording this song, it's kind of this song is called Train to the South, and it's about going home from Taipei in the north, going back to your hometown when you've been away from home for months and you've been working really hard.
Yeah.
And then it's then we'll have this whole scene of us, the musicians going down south, and another story is about the land and Wing's relationship with the land and with his hometown, and with kind of growing up in the countryside. So then that's where you have the scenes of us in the rice fields and splashing around in Wing's favourite river that he used to go to when he was a teenager and stuff like that. So I think it would be quite cool to have the songs with images, and like real images as well, not just music videos, but it's kind of a whole a whole story of the songs and the album and the concept and how it was made and where it all comes from visually. It's almost like instead of having album notes which explain the background of the songs, you've got a whole documentary which does that visually. I think it'll be really exciting. So watch out for that, guys. We will give you definitely a heads up when it all comes out.
It's a great idea, isn't it?
Yeah. And if we can, we should, I think, get Wing to do an international tour and visit the UK.
Yeah, that would be great.
Bring the documentary and the band. Yeah. So for me to be able to be involved with that whole project, particularly during this time of crisis, was a real privilege that I kind of kept having to remind myself, don't take this for granted.
Yeah.
It was weird because every day I'd read the news, particularly about the UK, because that's where you guys all are, and I'd just be, really worried. But at the same time, looking out at the countryside and doing this recording and going around in the south of Taiwan, thinking, how have they done it so well here?
Yeah.
And why hasn't the rest of the world learned from Taiwan's example? I don't know.
I couldn't understand that either.
Yeah.
Taiwan's done so well.
They have, and they've done well since January, and yet it's taken until April for leaders in the West, it seems, to actually start to pick up on some of the tactics that have been used here to control and halt the spread of the virus.
Oh dear.
But so I talk about this project with Wing. One of the things on the way there, so it's about a 4-hour drive from Taipei down south to this town, and I travelled actually with the TV crew, and we stopped in at a service station on the way there, and there were really simple things like they had a temperature camera to go into the shop at the service station. So if you had a temperature, you get stopped at the door. You weren't allowed in.
Yeah.
You had to wear a mask to be allowed in. So if you didn't wear a mask, again, you couldn't go in.
So in Taiwan, everyone's wearing them, right?
In Taiwan, it's been basically ever since back in the end of January, when it became clear that you could spread the disease without having any symptoms. Then it was like, okay, everyone wear masks, because you don't know if you've got it. The best way to stop you spreading it is to wear a mask. So then when you speak, you cough, you sneeze, it stays in your mask, and you're not going to spread it to the person you're talking to, the person on the MRT next to you,
So you're saying the answer is actually it's protecting everybody else.
It is, because originally, again, back in January, the WHO put out guidelines saying masks won't protect you because the virus can enter through your eyes, which is scientifically true, I think. So that's that's why doctors and nurses, they need to have glasses, they need to have goggles as well as masks to protect them when they're in hospitals dealing with these people. But for some reason, I don't know why the guidelines didn't get changed after that to say, oh, but mask will protect other people from you.
Yeah.
Because I know, for a lot of people, the fear is I might have it and I might pass it on to people, and there aren't that many tests available. So either I quarantine at home or I carry on. But it's quite a fear factor. Whereas at least if you wear a mask, then you can be pretty sure, even if I've got it and I'm asymptomatic, I'm much, much less likely to pass it on to someone else by wearing a mask. And again, there was a case here where a nurse in a care home tested positive with the virus, and everyone at that point was like, oh no, because the virus in a care home has been one of the most deadly things globally, and yet they so she was immediately quarantined. The whole care home were tested, everyone was negative, and it was fine.
Wow.
And it's kind of like, well, that's what PPE does. It protects others as well as it's not just about protecting yourself. It's these masks and other stuff, and frequent hand washing, all the rest of it is also about protecting other people. And if you do it right, it works. So yes, so here, if you go on the MRT, or as I was talking about, I went into the service station, the rules are there in terms of mask wearing, in terms of hand sanitizing. That's the other thing. So if you've got a temperature, you're not allowed in. If you don't wear a mask, you're not allowed in. And then at the door, there's someone there with the alcohol spray to do your hands as you go in.
Yeah.
And then the tables where you would normally have a food court, they've like crossed out specific seats. So you're not allowed to, sit more than 2 people, and you don't face anyone and all that kind of stuff.
It's interesting.
I think it's probably, to be honest, it's all the kind of precautions and social distancing that is then going to have to happen in the UK after the lockdown, when it starts to ease.
Yeah, eventually we'll have it. Yeah.
Because it's been like that here for 3 months already. And it doesn't look like it's going to ease off here, despite the fact there aren't any cases now, until the virus internationally has essentially either been eliminated or there's vaccines out or whatever. So yeah, it's that sense of living with precautions, living on high alert here in Taiwan, and yet having done it right, done it properly so far, at least. I mean, there's always a danger, but certainly so far it's allowed most people to get on with life normally, or I say almost normally. And as I say, for me, have this incredible experience.
Yeah.
Recording this new album with Wing.
Amazing.
Albeit just by adding in these extra precautions and being careful.
Yeah, it's incredible. Well, why don't we share a song with everyone, encourage some of the listeners?
Yeah.
And we've worked on some music with Wing in the past. Can you introduce a song that we've worked with him on before, please?
Well, that's right. So going back to this new album, the album that we were recording with Wing this time, I said it's a Hakka album. That's the Hakka language.
客家话.
That's right. 客家话 is a different Chinese dialect. And in Taiwan, the Hakka people, they make up, I think it's about 15% of the population.
Okay.
So there's
a sizable amount.
A sizable minority. Yeah, this is Wing's second Hakka album. The first one, we also had the chance to collaborate with him. You were here at the time, Jess. We had a recording session in Taipei that time. And that first Hakka album that Wing released won a Golden Melody Award at Jinchu Jia.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that was exciting because that's the biggest award in Mandarin music, basically. And he won Best Hakka Artist of the Year in 2016.
That's it. Yep.
And actually, that was a big boost for Wing, for his whole career, for his music, for exposure, and actually he launched him into quite a lot of TV work as well. Which again is partly why Hakka TV, the channel, were making a documentary about this album, because Wing's quite a big name in that scene. So I thought we should definitely. Well, we'll put the link up to the video of this song that we're going to introduce, 关于我和你. 关于我和你, which means
so about you and me.
That's right. 关于 is like about or related to,
concerning us. Yeah.
Yeah. 我 is I, me. 和你 that's and you. 我和你, me and you. So it's about you and me, and it's a song which essentially it's like a self-introduction to Wing, to himself. It tells a little bit of his life story in the song. But something that was really nice was that he asked you, Jess, to then write a verse in English, introducing him almost from your perspective.
Yeah, it's funny.
So for listeners, I'm sure you may well not understand the Hakka language part of it, the 客家话, but you can understand the English part of it that Jess sings in the second verse, and get a feel for what this song is about, and kind of something of Wing's life story in it.
Well, Wing, my friend, so many stories to tell. We toured the world together, laughed until the sun came up. Hold on to your music dream, we want to see you fly. good for GPS, a truly hot good gentleman.
Tôi ghé hộp pen you， 用音樂來交流，來重按人嘅故事，做明星。16歲那年初次登上電視機，學吉他打動駐唱，後來發行專輯。
Great.
Yeah, that brings back so many memories. And now we'd love to share another song with you, which is a transition song. It talks about going through uncomfortable times and dealing with change. I hope it encourages you. It's called 부 배 추 다이. Here we go.
Back on my feet, back learning to breathe. Didn't know what hit me, took me out of reach. A slow recovery, I wanted to prove I would be back to the land of discovery. Daring to shape the world, getting to my feet when I fall. 起来 Don't always ask why. 说出来 Don't believe in lies. 相信爱还存在 The way to fly. 离开没有人可以起来 Don't always ask why. 说出来 Don't believe in lies. 相信爱还存在 The way to fly. 离开没有人期待。久久的雨刷，怎样都无法牵出飘在眼前的迷路，不再空等待 follow 的来，继续开往无法预测的旅途，还是会感到孤独，现实总会人心有归属，起来 Don't always ask why. 说出来 Don't believe in lies. 相信爱还存在 The way to fly. 离开没有人期待 Don't always ask why. 说出来 Don't believe in lies. 相信爱还存在 The way to fly. 离开没有人期待。
New way of thinking about what it means to be human. And you can create something that hasn't existed before. You have way more power than you realize to shape your life. And I remember crossing the border and feeling like I'm alive.
Great.
Yep, that song is called 부 배 추 다이.
That'll wake you up. Keep you awake. 3 o'clock in the morning in Taiwan.
Yeah, it's time to sleep, I think.
Yeah. Thanks so much for staying up and chatting. We'll be back again next week. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yep. He's up late.
Should probably swap, and I should be the one who's up at 3.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, in the meantime, to all of our listeners, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, to everybody out there, thanks for listening.
So thanks for tuning in. Do like, comment, subscribe, all the rest of it. And any questions or things you'd like us to talk about, or people you'd like us to interview, then let us know. And do keep your eyes open. We'll have some more artist interview videos coming out as well that I've been doing here in Taipei.
Yeah, that series has been great. Yeah.
All right then. Good night.
Cool. Take care.
Bye.